welcome to the Human Rights Amendment Bill. And the question is that part one stand part. Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's pleasing to be able to have an opportunity to speak again on the Human Rights Amendment Bill, which was originally brought to this House by Judith Collins. And I think it's interesting that perhaps as we've seen with other transitions that portfolios have made between Judith Collins and the now Minister Amy Adams, there's been a few tweaks to this bill. I would say it's actually made a rather substantive change to the Human Rights Amendment Bill for the better. And that doesn't actually surprise me that Amy Adams has reversed a decision that's been made by her colleague Judith Collins when it was brought before the House. To quickly traverse the substantial parts of the Human Rights Amendment Bill, and the most substantive parts are contained in Part 1. Currently, the Human Rights Act, dated 1993, does set out that there is room for the statutory appointment of two specialised commissioners outside of the Human Rights Commissioner, and they are the Race Relations Commissioner, which obviously I doubt anyone in this House would dispute the need to maintain that role, and the Equal Employment Opportunities Commissioner, also a role that I think this House would probably agree there was certainly still an important place for, and a role that I think is being fulfilled very well by ex-colleague from this House, Jackie Blue. This the Act as it originally stood also allowed some flexibility in additional commissioners that could be appointed. We had a situation where you could have 3 full-time and then up to 5 part-time commissioners. Now that allowed a certain flexibility to appoint commissioners based on what the needs were identified by the Human Rights Commission, and also flexibility in the employment arrangement, which seems fitting for the Human Rights Commission, in the fact that there were part-time roles available, depending on, obviously on the priority of those commissioner roles. What this bill does, however, is substantially change that flexibility. It provides different designations. Well, actually, it removes designations in its original form, and reduces down the number of commissioners that can be available. So, where we had a situation where there were 3 full-time and up to 5 part-time, we moved to a situation where we have, according to Clause 6 of the bill, which sets out the membership of the Commission. The Commission consists of the following Human Rights Commissioners: A, the Chief Commissioner, B, not less than 3 and not more than 4 other commissioners. So a substantive change in the amount of flexibility, going from 3 full-time and up to 5 part-time, total of 8 different designations that could be held. I think something important here as well, removing part-time does remove the flexibility that existed for the Commission, and it may well be that you might have a portfolio that didn't require a full-time post. For instance, what if we down the track see that we have substantial issues for our seniors, that the Human Rights Commission determines it would be useful to have a role, Australia's done the same, but actually having someone identifiable that holds that role singly, but maybe it was a part-time role. We're now removing that ability. It would be full-time or nothing, and you might have a situation where then Human Rights Commissioners are holding multiple designations, and I think that really muddies the water and muddies the distinction that we want between those different commissioners. So we've lost a bit of flexibility there. But quite a substantive change, though, since the time that the bill was introduced, between what the original minister was suggesting and what we now have via an SOP that Amy Adams has produced. And it's one, I'd say, that this side of the House supports that SOP. We still have substantial problems with the bill and don't intend to support the bill, but the SOP is an improvement and something we think that we should support. Now, let me cover off what that SOP does. Originally, under Clause 6 of the Human Rights Amendment Bill, it states under 1A, and this sets out how the designation needs to work amongst those new 3 or 4 commissioners. there must be a commissioner, other than the Chief Commissioner, appointed to lead the work of the Commission in each of the following priority areas. Originally, the bill set out A, disability rights, which actually is one part of the bill we absolutely support, as did roughly half of the submissions at Select Committee, supported the establishment of a disability rights role within the Human Rights Commission. Not before time, I have to say, Mr. Chair. So fantastic that that has been included. We absolutely support that. But we supported the idea of a disability rights commissioner. What the bill originally did was just set out that there must be a priority area of disability rights. There wasn't a specific commissioner. We weren't clear necessarily how that portfolio would be managed, and so on. It then set out B, equal employment opportunities, brackets including pay equity as if it were a side thought, and C, race relations. So again, those three designations now just set out as portfolios rather than specific designations for each of the commissioners. Then we had the Minister enter in on the Tuesday the 10th of May, supplementary order paper was tabled. This was described, has been described as a minor amendment, a technical amendment to the bill. I often find that these are technical and minor in sheep's clothing, because actually I would not consider this to be minor at all. The explanatory notes that this supplementary order paper makes minor amendments to new section 81A of the Human Rights Act, as inserted by clause 6 of the bill. The amendments give the designations of Disability Rights Commissioner, Equal Employment Opportunities Commissioner, and Race Relations Commissioner to the commissioners appointed to lead the work of the Human Rights Commission in the priority areas. So that was what we used to have. That was what we had as the status quo, apart from the Disability Rights Commission, which we accept as the new amendment. We before, in this bill that was brought before the House by Judith Collins, we didn't have those commissioner roles. She was getting rid of them. They were just titles, bits of lead work that needed to be done by someone. Now we have Amy Adams bringing them back as specific commissioner designations. Now, all I would say is good. Is good. And perhaps few. Claire Curran, absolutely right. Few is a good description. Perhaps we actually had some role in persuading the minister, who would know. But it did seem a waste of energy to us to, on the one hand, say there's a need now to have a Disability Rights Commissioner, but in the other breath, we're going to get rid of the commissioners in the other areas. So I thank the minister for her SOP. I think it's the right thing to do. The question I have, though, is that this SOP does not change the total number of commissioners that can be appointed. We haven't got a change to the total number. And remember, in clause 6(1)(a) and B, it sets out there will be a chief commissioner and not less than 3 and not more than 4 other commissioners. Well, we've got disability rights, we've got equal employment opportunities, and we've got race relations. So basically, we have a buffer of 1 now. We used to have more discretion before this bill came to the House. The commissioner had more discretion to appoint other commissioners, and that has not been reinstated by that SOP. So we're still disappointed. We don't see the rationale for that in terms of the makeup of the commission. And I will come back to this later on in the discussion, that discretion, much to our disappointment, actually now lies to a certain degree to ministerial discretion as well, and we disagree with that. Priority areas now are in consultation. We don't think that's right. We think there should be that absolute independence of the Commission. So good on the one hand, but not quite far enough in our thinking. And the other question I'd pose to the Minister is, does the addition of the word commissioner, as her SOP sets out in SOP 175, does that a separate delegation of commissioner mean that you cannot hold multiple portfolios? So you could not be both the Disability Rights Commissioner and the Equal Employment Opportunities Commissioner and or the Race Relations Commissioner. If you can hold multiple portfolios, I guess that means there would be greater flexibility. I'm not clear in my own mind as to whether or not your SOP precludes one designation from holding multiple roles, and it would be useful to know that. Of course, it sets out in the rest of that clause that the Commissioner must lead the work of the Commission in any other priority area that is designated by the Chief Commissioner, and the Chief Commissioner may designate an area of work priority area only in accordance, and this was an amendment by the Select Committee, only in accordance with the strategic nature.
I call Pini Henare.